Every week I make this video telling you guys who you should be picking up before the week as deep stashes to add to the end of your bench so that you don't have to be like my league mate last week who dropped $69 on Jalen Naylor. Now, unfortunately for me, Jalen Naylor actually looked really good, scored another touchdown. He gets the last laugh on me, but I still want to help you guys from having to spend so much money once these dudes become relevant. Get them now as we see some indicators of, who might become relevant in the coming weeks, who could pop off this week. These are like deep names. First, we got to do some homework. So before I waste any more time, let's get into the video, man. And we're going to start with handcuffs. So handcuffs are essentially just backup running backs for any team. But in my opinion, I like to go for backup running backs on top teams. So on teams that have really good offenses, good offensive lines, really talented running backs ahead of them. These are dudes that are valuable because we know that if the backup goes in and he's a good player in his own right, we know that those are going to be very productive fantasy assets, right? Like dudes that can take over these backfields. And I want to just list a couple of names, just shotgun fire these names before we head into the actual players. And Braelon Allen is probably the head of the list, right? So Braelon Allen, obviously the backup for Breece Hall. He has standalone value for the Jets, so he should be really good if he were to go in. He's already really been productive as a handcuff. Next guy is Ray Davis. Ray Davis is the backup to James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. Also a dude who could get a lot of goal line work if James Cook were to ever go down. I think Ray Davis would be a very nice start weekly. Trey Benson is the next one. He is the backup for James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals. Just a high octane offense that we want pieces of. And if James Conner were to go down, which, he is 29 years old, very possible that he does go down. Next dude is Blake Corum, backup for Kyren Williams. Very easy. We thought Blake Corum would actually have a role this season as a potentially sharing the backfield with Kyren Williams. That didn't turn out to be the case. Kyren Williams is essentially just a workhorse. It'd still be good to have a dude like Blake Corum just in case Kyren goes down. He is a small running back. Ty Chandler's the next one. Same idea with Blake Corum. We thought he'd have an early down role with Aaron Jones, but it's just the Aaron Jones show. Ty Chandler has looked good in a couple games, but make sure you have him because he could have standalone value, and then obviously he'd be super good if Aaron Jones were to go down. Next dude is Emanuel Wilson. Emanuel Wilson, backup for Josh Jacobs for the Packers. So he also showed a lot of flash. He scored on a screen pass touchdown in the last game, had about 16 fantasy points, actually looked really good, really, had a lot of juice. Josh Jacobs didn't look very good last game. So this is something where if Josh Jacobs were to go down, Emanuel Wilson would obviously be a every week starter. And even if Josh Jacobs doesn't go down, I can imagine Emanuel Wilson still having some value. And now we get into the section called thin ice. These are players that are on thin ice, that are on the verge of losing their job if they haven't already lost their job. And we're starting this video with DeAndre Swift. He is an enemy of Fantasy Flow, an enemy of the channel. I drafted this man to be great, dude. I had high hopes for him. I had big plans for DeAndre Swift as a part of my squad. He has eaten a bag of shit this season. I actually reached out to his team and I said, officially Nemesis arc has started. His team didn't respond. I was like, Fantasy Flow and DeAndre Swift Nemesis arc begins now. And they did not respond, man. But basically, you want to be picking up Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert. So they're both must-adds. I know Roschon Johnson was on a lot of people's waiver wire videos. You probably already picked them up through normal waivers. But Khalil Herbert's kind of a sneaky one as well, where basically Roschon Johnson is expected to get maybe the first crack at early down and some receiving work. But we have seen that even in the last weeks where Swift was the dude, Khalil Herbert actually leads the team in red zone rush attempts. So that's something that I didn't expect, right? So I think Khalil Herbert's honestly the better pure rusher on this team. He actually has pretty decent vision. He's mostly a one-cut running back. So it's a big, when I say a big if, I mean, it's probably going to happen. If Roschon Johnson looks ineffective behind this absolutely tremendously bad offensive line, I can imagine them being all right, who's next? Herbert. So just stash him, see what happens. The next thin ice player, this is another arch nemesis of Fantasy Flow. Another dude where it's hands on sight if I do see him on the streets. It's Zamir White, bro. So Zamir White has been bad. He's a power runner, and this team cannot power run right now. And basically, Alexander Mattison has had 3 touchdowns in 3 games. So 1 touchdown every game. And he's actually been used on the goal line. So he's actually getting those valuable carries. Now, don't get me wrong. Alexander Mattison has also been bad. He's also been a journeyman. He's also not been spectacular in any type of way. But So I'm not saying he's going to be like a, pop off crazy, nice, valuable player for anyone, but he is something just in case. What if they just hand over the backfield to Alexander Mattison? He might also be bad, but at least he's already getting touchdowns, right? So add the volume to the touchdowns he's already getting. You could have something here, right? I had this screenshot, bro, from week 2. So there was a point in the game where I had to take a screenshot of the production of everyone on the team. And it's just so fucking laughable, dude. Zamir White, 5 carries for 9 yards. DJ Turner, I don't know who that is. I don't even think he's still on the team. 1 carry for 2 yards. Amir Abdullah, 2 carries for 1 yard. Gardner Minshew got in. He wanted a taste of this fucking horrible. And he goes 1 for -1. Alexander Mattison, 3 for -2, but a touchdown. So it was just, it's a brutal team. It's a brutal, team for me to say you should have a piece of anyone on that team, but just pick up Mattison, see what happens. Next on the list on thin ice is also Javonte Williams. Basically, this trio of running backs have been mainstays on my channel the past 3 weeks, bro. I have them in the panic section, in the trade high, trade low. I've been making a living trashing these 3 players. Javonte Williams is the next one. I got into a Twitter battle with someone about Javonte Williams, about whether he was washed or not. And I got into this Twitter beef after week 1. Basically, to sum it up, I haven't heard back from this dude. I think he blocked me. And I think we know who won this fucking Twitter debate. But yeah, you want to pick up Jaleel Mclaughlin. He got into the end zone last week. He actually has really good stats and metrics as a pure runner and as a receiver. Unfortunately, his production hasn't matched. It's just a brutal offensive line as well. And the Broncos, they want to be like a run-first team, but at the moment they just can't. They're just struggling to run the ball, struggling to get anything going. So I would also add, or speculatively add, Audric Estime. He's currently on IR. He started the season on IR, but he can return in week 5. They liked him in camp. They really liked him. He ended up making the roster. He was like a 5th or 6th round draft pick. So there was no guarantee he'd make the roster. Adam, throw him on your IR if you have a spot. I would be doing that, but currently my team is like an ER unit. So I have 3 dudes on IR, 2 guys that are questionable on my bench. My team is down bad. So I personally can't be picking him up, but yeah, I think you guys should, just in case. But Jaleel Mclaughlin and then Audric Estime number 2. So upside stashes is the next section on this, and it's essentially dudes who I want to stash who have some upside, who, if they were to pop up this week, would be really valuable waiver pickups the following week. And the first one, it's 2 guys. It's the Panthers wide receivers. So we see Andy Dalton take over. We see Deontay Johnson kind of really pop off, get he's the toast of the town, right? Everybody's talking about Deontay Johnson. But Xavier Legette, dude, quietly had a nice week in his own right. He actually was on the field. That's enough to have a good week for Xavier Legette. He's a 1st-round draft pick. He's got some speed. He's got yak ability, which is yards after the catch. And Adam Thielen goes down and gets put on IR immediately after that. So last week I said to pick up Thielen and Legette with a preference to Thielen. He ends up getting into the end zone. This week, same fucking thesis, except Legette and Jonathan Mingo. So Jonathan Mingo could be interesting. Jonathan Mingo was working ahead of Legette before when Bryce Young was still starting and stuff. And I do think they phase Mingo out and they phase Legette in more as the season progresses. But for the next couple weeks, I think Mingo could be interesting. So that does it for Panthers. The next dude on my list, I've had him on my list also for 2 weeks in a row. Maybe I can't let go, dude. I'm like Jack from Titanic, just holding on to the big door, just slowly dying. But it's Jordan Whittington. So I have a whole video about him. I will post it up somewhere over here, probably on this side. Basically, I talk about how although his production and his snap rate didn't seem like it, he actually played really well for the Rams in the last game. Tyler Johnson, he gets 50 PFF scores across the board. He's very unspectacular, doesn't really do much for the team, isn't really very productive. He had in week 1 a little bit of production, in week 2 a little bit of production, but in week 3 we really didn't see him show up. And I think Jordan Whittington, he had listen to this, highest PFF grade in run blocking across all wide receivers in week 3. He had this one play where he lead blocks for Kyren Williams in the end zone or in the red zone. Lead blocks for him. Kyren Williams follows the block, gets into the end zone. They're hyped. They're hugging each other. I'm pretty sure they kiss. It was hype, dude. And I'm like, all right, Jordan Whittington is going to get playing time for that. He's going to be on the field, dude. He reminds me a lot of Puka Nacua. Like, it's not just that he's a good run blocker. He's also a good receiver. Like, he can get open, and he has good yard after the catch potential. So pick up Jordan Whittington, put him on the end of your bench, see what happens. I mean, you can pick up any Rams player and put them on the end of your bench and see what happens. But I do think Jordan Whittington is somebody that could end up being a mainstay, like, season long, even when Kupp returns. Maybe not when Puka returns, but that does it for Jordan Whittington. Next guy is going to be Josh Palmer. Just look at your waiver wire. If somebody dropped Josh Palmer, check your drops, because he was going into the season expected to be the wide receiver 1 for the Chargers. And he looked like shit in week 1. And then in week 2, he gets injured, only plays like 40% of the snaps. But at the end of the day, like, if Herbert comes back, if he can get healthy, if Heineke comes in, you have a change of quarterback. You never know, man. Sometimes there's these connections with quarterbacks and wide receivers that just aren't explainable. So what if Heineke and Josh Palmer have this connection, right? Maybe not this week, but next week. Maybe Herbert, maybe they decide to rest him. I do think they have their bye week after this week, but just pick him up, see what happens, dude. Maybe he ends up being the wide receiver 1 in the second half of the season. Last guy on this list is going to be Tre Tucker. So Tre Tucker, maybe I should have put Tre Tucker first on this list, because I think he's very important to pick up. Basically, Davante Adams is officially out this week, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Tre Tucker kind of pops off last week. I know it was in garbage time, but he gets 9 targets, 8 for 96, and a touchdown. And Adams was on the field, right? So even in garbage time, it's not like they took out all their starters. So I think Adams is going to get traded. I think the vibes are kind of interesting right now. Like, basically, he seemed healthy coming out of week 3, and then all of a sudden he's out. And then Antonio Pierce says there's going to be business decisions. And Davante Adams has been kind of making business decisions the last year and a half with the Raiders. And he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's selfish or all about himself, but maybe he's exaggerating his injury so he doesn't get injured, so he gets traded. I don't know. There's some weird vibes, bro. But anyway, Tre Tucker is somebody who's interesting. He's very productive. He's low-key a decent flex play even this week, considering the fact that Adams is out and Mason Crosby is out. So the Raiders' defense is going to be a lot worse. Maybe they'll be losing the game. So put a flyer on Tre Tucker, see what happens. Obviously, Jacoby Myers, if he's on the waiver wire, he should be picked up and started. But that does it for this week's edition of Waiver Wire Stashes, boys. Pick up these dudes if you have some roster space. Throw some guys on IR. Keaton Mitchell's another just random name to throw out there. Just every week I have to mention him, because he could come back and have a role for the Ravens. So hope you guys liked this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it helps so much if you guys give me a like and a sub. Helps the channel. It's your way of showing appreciation and support. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. If you disagree, I do have my week 4 rankings up there. You can see a link. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.